All right, we're here with Raviv Ullman, who some of you may recognize formerly as Ricky Ullman when he was on Phil of the Future. He went back to his stage name of Raviv Ullman, which is actually his real name when he was done with Disney.
Back to the basics.
Back to the basics.
Yeah.
So why don't you give us a little bit of background on when you started acting? I know you're from Connecticut, you said, but you went out to California.
Yeah, so I grew up in Connecticut. I was born in Israel, grew up in Fairfield, Connecticut, doing a lot of local theater, doing summer theater camp, kind of whatever I could get my hands on. And then when I was about 9 years old, I got a manager here in New York City, started auditioning for a lot of theater, did more regional theater. When I was 11, I did a tour of The King and I for like 10 months, national tour. That was awesome. We had Haley Mills and Marie Osmond and Maureen McGovern out with us. And that was like my first introduction to big theater. And then I kept acting throughout high school. And in my junior year, booked the Disney show Phil of the Future, which brought me out to Los Angeles. And we shot that show for about 2 or 3 years.
Now, what was that like for you? Because that kind of catapulted you into the quote-unquote teen heartthrob status.
Yeah, I guess so, which I still haven't fully realized or recognized maybe. I mean, it was a totally different world. What it was there was a change in everything. You know, I went from living with my parents and going to public high school, where all my friends ran track and if we were part of theater with student theater, to being on a television set in Los Angeles, and having my own apartment and driving to work every day. So it wasn't that, oh my gosh, all of a sudden we're in the spotlight. It really was a change in everything. Everything
Right.
that I was doing had been kind of flipped upside down. At the same time, it was exactly what I always wanted to do. You know, I did growing up here in New York, and being a part of the theater scene. I never really attributed success to television. I knew that it was a part of acting, and I'd been on Law and Order, and I did little guest spots and things like that. But the idea of a professional actor at the time had been, going from tour to tour and being in the ensemble and learning how to dance and sing and knowing how to stage manage and kind of all that. And so then to go out to LA and all of a sudden be the lead on a kids TV show was totally out of left field. But I loved it. Working for Disney was amazing. I got to meet amazing people. It's very an insular company. Like while you're working for them, you're working for them, and they're loyal. I was. At the time, maybe things have changed, but at the time they didn't have any commercials. So all of their commercials were, imagination, promos, and Disney kids are just like you, and go out there and exercise. And we were all part of that, of creating those spots. And then all the kids guested on each other's shows, so I would be on That's So Raven, and then I would do a Disney Channel movie, and then I'd do an ABC Family movie, because that was all owned by the same people, and a Lifetime disc, and so it was all kind of in the same bubble, but we were busy. It was great, and that lasted for about 3 years. And then I lived in Los Angeles for about 5 more years after that, working on different things. I did a Lifetime series for a while. I did a lot of indie films. I did really one play out in LA, and I loved it. I still love LA. I miss a lot of the things there. I feel like I grew up almost in Los Angeles. I went to high school in Connecticut, but anything past that, any kind of college experience or being on my own and realizing myself happened in Los Angeles. Even driving. When I grew up in Connecticut, I drove from my house to high school, and that was it.
Right.
So all of a sudden, being on city streets and all of that was happening in Los Angeles. So I feel like I kind of grew up in Los Angeles for myself. And now I'm back, and then I realized that I wanted to come back. I wanted to attack theater a little bit more. I wanted to at least be available here in New York. There's more happening now here in New York, and it's an exciting time to be here. I always knew I'd end up living here, and there was nothing tying me down to Los Angeles at the time, so I figured why not.
And you just recently did a show for the new group.
Yeah, I came out here in about September of last year, and in November I started working on an off-Broadway show called Russian Transport for New Group, which is a new play by Erica Shepard. We had Janine Garofalo and Dan Areski, so I actually just saw it in this very coffee shop months ago. And Sarah Steele is now working on Slow Girl Lincoln Center, and Morgan Spector, who was nominated for a Drama Desk for it. It was an amazing team. and Scott Elliott, who's the artistic director over there, directed it, and that brought us to mid-March. And then I started working for Second Stage for a show called The Bad Guys, and we're up here on the Upper West Side, 76th and Broadway. We have one more week. We run until the 12th. No, yes, the 17th. Today is the 12th.
Today is the 12th. Yep.
I thought yesterday was Saturday. It wasn't. Yeah, it's been really exciting to be a part of the theater community out here, and even the off-Broadway community. It's been, not even. Charles Isherwood just wrote this amazing piece in the Times on Saturday, I think, about the importance of off-Broadway theater and how you almost have a chance to, you have the opportunity to take chances in off-Broadway, where Broadway ends up being sometimes like big network television, where you kind of say the same things over and over again, the same shows keep coming through. And there are definitely exceptions to that. Peter and the Starcatcher is a great example. Something totally new and amazing. Once is a great example of that. It was from a movie, something like Jerusalem from last year. And so you do see a lot of big Broadway that is incredibly inspiring. But off-Broadway kind of has the chance to push a little bit more, some more buttons, and take some more chances. And that's what I found was the biggest difference between working in television and working in theater, is that television is designed to enter people's homes, and you're visiting people in their living rooms, and so because of that, it has to be comfortable. Even a crazy cop show, the audience wants to know who the killer is before the cops do.
Right.
And if somebody says something funny on a sitcom, the audience wants to feel like, I knew he was going to say that. And that's the comfort of television, is in getting to know characters and getting to understand them, and you feel like you're a part of their world. Where theater, you have to do something new and original. You have to kind of blow people's minds, even if it's a remake, even if they're doing How to Succeed Business with Nick Jonas, like whatever it is, it has to be something new.
Right.
And an exciting way of doing it. To get people into the theater, otherwise people won't show up. So to be a part of a community that's always trying to test those boundaries and bring new stories to audiences is incredibly inspiring.
Now, what advice would you have to newcomers, since you went through the going from Broadway to a successful TV show to being thrown in the spotlight of being one of those teen pinups in the centerfolds of magazines and having girls, run after you and be like, oh my God, it's Ricky Ullman at that point when you were Ricky Ullman.
Point, yeah, I don't know. I mean, definitely that should never be the goal, right? Getting chased by people should not be the goal. Because it doesn't happen to me anymore. I definitely had that experience, and to be completely honest, going into that situation, I thought that I was going to be able to do whatever movie I wanted after that, and that the whole world was going to be available. And then Zac Efron came along, and the Jonas Brothers came along, and they're huge. And I know those guys, and they're awesome, and they're very sweet, and they're huge, and they probably own multiple houses, and are incredibly successful. I didn't get that level of success. I didn't meet that enormous success after working with Disney, even though at the time it was a very well-recognized show and people were very supportive and we had a great fan base. But if you want to be an actor, then you're a storyteller, and that's a lifelong mission. And then there are many forms of storytelling, and no job is going to last forever. No job, no television show is going to be on TV forever, and no movie is going to be #1 in the box office forever, and no play is going to run forever. That's part of what we do. There is no such thing as job security, and even seeing great success with one show doesn't mean great success with another one. And I've worked on projects that I am incredibly proud of, and I've worked on projects that I hope people will never see ever. But that's what I've learned from this whole journey. I mean, I've been at this for 17 years now, is that it's a journey. And you see people like David O'Hare or Mark Rylance or, older actors that have been doing it forever and are part of many different kinds of storytelling that are incredibly inspiring. It's not the people who are in the limelight right now that are always the greatest actors. It's not the people who are in the limelight who will always be in the limelight. And I think that the idea of celebritydom, if you want to be an actor, shouldn't be what you're working for, because that's a whole side thing to it. And most of the people who do have that constantly don't enjoy it, right? Getting chased by paparazzi and everything that you say is torn apart. But I think if you want to be an actor, then focusing on the stories that you want to tell. We were talking before about writing. I'm not much of a writer, but I really respect the process of writing. Obviously, if it weren't for writers, I wouldn't be able to do anything that I do. But creating as much as you can, making films with your friends, because every project that you do, you learn something. Every play that I do, every movie that I do, every short film with my friends that I make, or skit that we shoot, we're learning something about storytelling in the process of it, whether it's in editing or whether it's a joke and how best to tell a joke. That was great about working on a sitcom for Lifetime on Rita Rocks, was that I got to work with some great sitcom, big time, with Nicole Sullivan and Tisha Campbell-Martin and Richard Riccolo, and these guys who've been doing sitcom work forever, and they understand the science of telling a joke. And sometimes when you watch a sitcom, it's just kind of silly and fun. But there really is like a science to how jokes are put together and your role in that joke. Do you support the joke, or are you the button on the joke, or are you the guy who is the joke? You know, where are you? Is it physical comedy? Is it smart comedy? And the more that you do by yourself and with friends, the more you'll learn. So whether it's sitting down just writing a script, or putting a play on in your backyard, or starting a student theater group in high school. When I was in high school, we had a student theater group, and we would produce and write and act in our own shows. That's an incredible training ground, because working in a black box in your local high school isn't that much different than working off Broadway in a 200-seat theater. You know, you're doing a play for audiences.
Yep.
And you know, the more that you do, the more that you'll learn and the better that you'll be. And even people who start off really not having any idea what they're doing, or being very nervous on stage, can find that maybe that's where they're happiest. Or maybe they find that they love to be a lighting designer, or a sound designer, or a prop guy, or building sets or designing sets. And the more that you're a part of it, the more you realize that there is a community that is here, and especially here in New York City, that's very relevant. There's a very strong artistic community that supports itself, that works with each other, and that looks forward to working with each other and creating these stories for the masses.
Cool. Thank you so much. It's been fantastic. Appreciate
Awesome.
it.
Thank you so much.